All right, ladies and gentlemen, so today we will be demonstrating and explaining basic matrix operations. And I'm Peyton Skelton, and this is my co-host, Jerry Ramsey.
Hello. We're going to help you solve these matrices today. So we're going to start out by doing just normal addition matrices. Now, whenever we go through, the first thing you want to look at to determine what kind of problem you're going to be dealing with is this middle symbol right here. Now, if this is a plus sign, then we already know this is going to be addition. If it was subtraction, then we'll do something else, which we'll talk about later. Now, the first thing you want to do is first thing you want to make sure is each one of these has to be the same dimension. So you can't be adding a 2 by 1 and a 2 by 2. It must be the same size. And so what you'll do is each spot will correlate with each other. So the 3 will go with the -2, the 9 will go with the 1, the -2 will go with the 3, 7 will go with the 4, and so on. And then after you add them all together, you'll get your answer.
So now we'll move on to subtraction, which is quite similar, if you will. So since you see a subtraction sign, obviously you subtract, and it'll be kind of similar and correlate with each other. See, we put an addition symbol here, and we flip all of the numbers signs. So since this was a regular 4, this is now a -4. This is now a -8, a +6, and a +9. We'll do the grouping again, so make sure it correlates, where -7 will go with the -4, the 5 will go with the -8, the 2 will go with the 9, and the -1 will go with the 6. And once you add those groups together, you will get your answer.
Now move on to the next part. This is multiplication. So it's different from addition and subtraction in the fact of they look the same, but they're not quite the same. Okay. Next one. You have to do the same thing almost. What you'll do is you'll have the dimensions out like how we have it drawn out. So we know it's a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2. Now, to get the dimensions of what your answer will look like, what you'll do is you'll take the second number in the first dimension, and you'll take the first number in the second dimension, and you'll add them together so that they look like this. And then if these are the same, then you know that you can do the problem. If they are not the same, you cannot do the problem, and the matrix is invalid. Right?
You're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. So what you'll do is, the multiplication will look like this. You will multiply the first number to the first number in that one, and you'll be adding it to the second number in the top row to the second number in the second column, like that, like it is stated over there. After you get these, you'll simply do basic multiplication and addition to get each of your answers, which is what this will end up being.
Now, this is probably the most complicated part about matrix operations, is trying to solve systems using inverse matrices. So we have 2 equations here, and these will be in our example problem. The way it'll be set up is that the coefficients will be set up in one matrices, so you'll see 2, 5, -3, and 1, because it's 2x minus 3y, which is the first row, and 5x plus y, which is the 5 and 1 over here. Then you'll get the x and y variables in their own 1 by 1 matrix. Then the answers, which are 7 and 2 in this case, will also be in their own matrix over here on the equal side. Now what you do is you take this matrices over here with the coefficients, you'll take the 1 and the 2 and flip those positions, and then you'll make this -3 a +3, and this 5 a -5, so you can get the matrices over here where the arrow is pointing. That is the inverse matrix of this matrix. And basically, you'll do cross multiplication, so 1 times 2 plus -5 times 3 to get -13, which will be your determinant. Then you'll take the inverse matrix and take all of them divided by your determinant, which in this case is -13. Once you have this matrix with the inverse matrix numbers divided by the determinant, you will multiply this by the answer matrix. Once you multiply these, once you get,
Should multiply those two.
so we multiply -113 times 7 to get this first number over here. Then it'll be corresponding with 3 divided by -13 times 2 on the top. Then 5/13 times 7 plus -2/13 times 2. Once you have this all done, then you will multiply this by, and you'll add these together. So the top left will end up being -7/13, and you'll add that to the top right, which is -13 times 2, which will end up as -6/13. You'll do the same thing for the bottom row, which will end up being 35/13 plus -4/13. And then you'll get your answer over here when you add those up, and that'll be -1/31/13. And since it's set up in an XY matrix, your X is -1 and your Y is the 31/13, and that is functions with matrices. And now you understand all about matrices.
All right.